Now, that should be a real eye-opener for all you men out there. If you want to destroy your manhood, just eat a lot of meat. All you got to do. You'll cease to be able to make testosterone. And both men and women, their sexual organs receive their volume and their function from the sexual hormones. It's your vitamins that allow you to break your food particles down and turn them into energy. So if you take the source of that away, where's your energy going to come from? And so you say, okay, I'm taking some supplements. We've been in countless stores for a lot of years, testing products in all these stores. You can't find a multivitamin that functions well inside of almost any store. And there's not many docs that know what I just said. So they're going to carry their favorite brand, which is no better than what you see in the store, because we've tested a lot of them. Good morning. This is Dr. Brad at Your Health Reclaimed, where we expose the root cause of Lyme disease, chronic illness, and all things health. Hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. That'll help get this out to other people and keep us going. We're sharing things that a lot of people want to talk about, and it's really important for others to see what we're doing. And the only way they're going to do that is if you get involved and put some comments in there. That brings things up and grabs the gurus with the SEO and all that, so others can listen too. So today we're going to get into carnivore diet. Been talking about 3 of the most common, what I call fad diets out there that really don't seem to have any healthy foundation in the way they're put together. Whoever put each one of these together doesn't understand physiology, doesn't understand nutrition, doesn't understand how the body works, and they're pretty dangerous diets. The carnivore is the top of the list as far as the dangerous diets go. It's a all-meat diet where they promote eating meats, fats, tallow, eggs, and allow a little bit of dairy. All plant matter is totally excluded. And you think about that, in the world history, there's never been a people group that have eaten this way. In the cultures that were more nomadic, they still farmed and they foraged. We live up in the western North Carolina mountains, up the Appalachian Mountains, in the highest county with the highest peaks east of the Mississippi River. It's the 3rd most diverse subtropical rainforest in the world. And up here, there's a wide diversity of critters, plants, edibles out in the forest. And there's a lot of people here that do what's called foraging. They go out in the forest to go see what they can cook with. They've got some really interesting things. Ramp is one of those. It's a plant that's kind of like half onion, half garlic, and it's phenomenal for cooking. People just love it and they pay a lot of money for it. You know, that's one thing that's unique out here. There's just so many things that you can go out in the woods and you can pick mushrooms, you can grab nuts. There's a lot of black walnut out here. Those are pretty good. The place used to be full of chestnuts until somebody up north brought in a Chinese chestnut, and the fungus from that chestnut wiped out the whole Appalachian range of chestnuts. Millions of trees. It's really a sad issue. Completely changed the climate of the whole area and the economy of the whole area. But that's mankind, and that's pretty common what he does. Even in places where there were hunting parties that went out, it was only to supplement what they could gather and what they could farm. Why that set the stage is that a meat-centric diet always makes people acidic. the higher the protein intake, the higher the acidity in the body. Now, we have a very narrow pH range where all cell functions occur, and that's 6.8 to 7. The lower numbers are the acid side, and the higher numbers are the base side. So 7 is midline. So it's just a little bit either side of neutral that we get optimal function in all life forms. There's very few life forms that live outside of that. There's some vinegar worms and other things like that that live in a higher acid environment, but almost all life forms live in this narrow pH. I was building soils some time back, went to go get some amendments, and the store I was getting them, they were the cleanest place we could find. And the person there asked me, "So what are you doing? Are you fertilizing an acre of land?" And I go, "No." "So what are you doing?" I said, "This is my 20-yard compost pile." And they looked at me and goes, "What?" "Yeah, I've been building soil. It's pretty much half rotted down leaves and half horse manure. And I'm putting amendments in to bring that up to nutrient level." And they looked at me and go, "You are crazy. You're going to have the pH so far off of that you'll never grow anything." I said, "Well, I did the math." They look at me like, "Well, what are you talking about? I did the math." And I've got a really high grade test kit for soil nutrients, and they need to be water soluble. And I know what they need to be by old world geniuses who taught master gardeners how to build soil. So you get, Dr. Kerry Reams is one of the guys with that. He said that the modern commercial way that people farm, they're only getting 2 to 3% yield off of what the land should be able to produce. And the way that he taught people to amend their soil and make everything work, they got at least 50% yield. So that's about 25 times what the commercial gardeners are doing. So that's huge. And the food satisfied people. My wife's father, he grew cucumbers that way. There was so much sugar in the cucumbers that it fermented inside of the pickle jars and burst the jars. So that's an indication of what food should be like with the right pH. But when you get acidic like this, all your cell functions diminish significantly, including your immune system. So that's one of those major problems. So we look at what carnivore allows. It's beef, pork, poultry, fish, seafood, egg, lard, tallow, and limited full-fat dairy. So we look at lard, big thing with fat. Lard and fat's the same thing. They surrender it to make more of a clear liquid. That is where all the animals store all of their toxicity. And the only way you're going to get a reasonable amount of fat is to feed them a grain-fed diet. I've said this before, but when you feed a grazing animal like a cow, any grain, it's not just a pure grain, just grain, in their diet, in 7 days, there's a 1,000-fold increase in pathogens growing inside of the gut. And that completely changes the way the gut works. It makes the lining of the gut atrophy, and makes the lining of the gut leak. It changes the microbes so they don't digest the food, but they ferment and they rot it. All of that action dumps a ton of toxins into the body. 3/4 of the detox systems are in the gut itself. The small intestinal wall, colon wall, and the microbes that grow inside of the gut. You wipe all that out. The liver can't make up for what that does. It can't handle the overload of toxicity just streaming out of the gut that goes straight into the liver. So it spills out systemically. Those toxins try and get out through the skin and the lungs. You start to get rashes and respiratory issues. And cattle get this too. They get a lot of respiratory problems. One of the big things with horses, especially if they eat round bales, a small herd, they'll bury their nose really deep, so they're clear up past their ears with their nose in this hay that's dusty. Dust is a little bit of mold that's in it. That rains down their nose, and they get these major respiratory diseases from it. So the The toxicity that can't get out of the body stores in the fat. The grains are grown with herbicides and pesticides, primarily going to be atrazine, which is like 10 times worse than Roundup in the corn. All of the other grains have a wide variety of other things. That's all going to be in the fat. So they promote eating toxic fat. Fat makes at least 22 different hormones. Those hormones are fat, are on fire and really angry, create radical inflammation throughout the body. Tallow is fat with wax in it, basically. Don't digest it very well. If you ever tried to eat ribs off of venison that was slaughtered in the fall time, the ribs are full of tallow and it coats your entire mouth with this wax. This just, you try and peel it off with your tongue and it doesn't work. Does not make sense to eat tallow at all. Full fat dairy. Dairy is one of the most toxic foods in the world. Dysregulates hormones and just turns people's worlds upside down. Dairy's a lot harder on women than men because you got a lot of estrogens in the dairy. The calcium in the dairy is in forms that we can't absorb. The protein fraction in the dairy is too high. That makes us acidic. It's bound up in potassium, or not potassium, but phosphate, and phosphate requires two molecules of calcium to excrete it out of the body. The calcium phosphate in the dairy is one calcium, one phosphate. So it's pulling minerals out of your body, and you can only absorb, it's about 25% of the calcium in the milk. All the rest is bound up in the milk protein called casein. So it's not a good product. And the estrogens in the dairy really upset the estrogens in women. Cow estrogens are not the same as women's estrogens, and all the pharmaceutical estrogens they get are from horse urine, and that's really toxic to women also. It inflames all the reproductive tissues, and that's why they have so many problems. Symptomatically reduces things, but it causes inflammation and the increased risk of cervical cancer, uterine cancer, ovarian cancer, and all those breast cancer is stimulated by things like dairy and hormone replacement therapies. So not really, really good. And you got to wonder, okay, is this really, really wise? When we look at the fact that it excludes all vegetable matter, so all fruits, grains, legumes, nuts, seeds, can't eat any of that. So you think about a culture that doesn't have refrigeration, how long is a meat going to last? If you don't salt it and smoke it immediately, it's going to spoil. It's not going to last till the next day. Unless you're harvesting like up in the North Country where the fall and winter can be 0 or lower, then you got a little more time. But you do that in a place like California where deer hunting season is commonly 105 degrees out. You don't even have a day to get that cooled off. So there's no way that people could have had this without immediately trying to dry it and make things, they just called it dried meat. In our culture, we make jerky out of it, which is a lot more flavorful. So you take the vegetable matter out. First thing and foremost is there's no fiber. There's no fiber in meat whatsoever. So with no fiber, there's nothing to fuel bowel habits. And with nothing to fuel bowel habits, you retain all the toxins you take in through your gut because nothing passes out, stays there for a long time. I did a podcast with somebody in the health space sometime back. They were in a world-class gym where they had the person that owned the gym was a world-class athlete. Son was a world-class athlete, and they did all kinds of falls and throws and wrestling things along that line. And I'm not totally sumo wrestling, but jiu-jitsu and combinations of that. Everybody in that gym that was male ate carnivore because that's what we're told to do. And I start talking about things like this and talking about there's no fiber and there's nothing to move the bowel habits. And this person went once a day and they thought that was pretty good. Normal is 3 to 5 times a day. If you really want to get rid of your toxins, you need to have at least 2 a day. So at the normal of 6-inch stools, 6 to 9-inch stools, 3 to 5 times a day, that's anywhere from 18 inches to almost 4 feet. 45 inches, 3 inches short of 4 feet of stool a day, you should be producing to really get rid of your toxicity. If you're doing one small thing once a day or less, you're just toxic. And this person said, well, is that why everybody in the gym poops bricks? I go, there you go. He said, yeah, they get in rectal fissures and hemorrhoids. I said, well, there's your reason why. And we talked about several other things that happen with just a solo meat diet. Meat is not a very good source of making energy. The amino acids in meat get converted into sugar inside of the liver. That jacks the blood sugars up through the roof, and that's the primary cause of diabetes, is the adrenals telling the liver to convert undigested proteins into sugar. So that's by far the most common cause of diabetes. So this sets you up for that. And with that, it dysregulates all the hormones. The adrenal glands, with all the inflammatory issues from the toxic fats and the undigestible proteins that need to get converted into fat, creates a constant state of inflammatory reaction inside of the body. So the adrenals make 2 kinds of hormones, the precursors to the sexual hormones, pregnenolone, DHEA, and the adrenal hormones, primarily cortisol and adrenaline. It's a cortisol and adrenaline that manage the stress blood sugars, inflammation, and all of that. When that becomes chronic, they steal all the pregnenolone, DHEA to convert and make more cortisol and adrenaline, but it ceases to give the precursors to make the sexual hormones. And the person I'm talking to said, is that why every male in their 40s and up is on testosterone? I said, you got it. Now that should be a real eye-opener for all you men out there. If you want to destroy your manhood, just eat a lot of meat. That's all you got to do. You'll cease to be able to make testosterone. And both men and women, their sexual organs receive their volume and their function from the sexual hormones. So you start to see shrinkage. And it's a commonly known thing out in societies, and why people still do it. Male athletes still take steroids, makes no sense, but taking the steroids destroys this whole pathway. And it's pretty common knowledge that these athletes that are just all jacked up and looking like they're all that, they don't have any testosterone, and their testicles can get down to the size of a peanut. That's pathetic. That's really pathetic that they are substituting this fictitious thing to make them look all masculine when down where it counts is being taken away. So I think if men knew that, they wouldn't jump to this, but people don't talk about what I'm talking about. So those are a couple things. The fiber, it reduces stew volume dramatically because there's no fiber in this diet. That increases the toxicity. Toxicity dysregulates hormones, and then the excessive protein needs to be converted into sugar, will steal the other side of the hormones, and it makes you lose your sexuality, both men and women. So And then you start to get erectile dysfunction. Men talk about that. It's not talked about on the woman's side, but that's why you have women that are perimenopausal, postmenopausal, chronic illness, and dietary deficiencies not being able to get sexually fulfilled because their arousal tissues won't erect and won't engage. And it takes a very attentive partner to understand that, realize that, and make sure they engage that to get their partner satisfied and fulfilled and wanting more. Another issue with taking all of the vegetable products out is that's where all your vitamins are. It's where all your minerals are. It's your vitamins that allow you to break your food parts down and turn those into energy and make yourself healthy. So if you take the source of that away, where's your energy going to come from? And so you say, okay, I'm taking some supplements. We've been in countless stores for a lot of years. And we just started as a field trip just for fun, testing products in all these stores. You can't find a multivitamin that functions well inside of almost any store. We know of only 2 manufacturers that make a high quality one in all of North America right now. What used to be the top one is no longer usable and junk. So, and that's professional supply only. And there's not many docs that know what I just said. So they're going to carry their favorite brand, which is no better than what you see in the store, because we've tested a lot of them. We have never tested a woman's multi, whether it's in a package in a kit or just in a bottle, from a store or professional supply. We've never tested one that actually makes her better. You heard me right. Not one that helps her normalize her hormones, normalize her physiology, and put her in a better place than if she didn't take anything at all. That's shocking. But we've tested a lot, and I've never seen that fail. So it's all the minerals that make everything work inside of us, and that's what turns the vitamins on to turn your enzymes on to make every function in your body work. So you're not giving any of the fuel. Meat has a very, very, very low supply of minerals. It's not adequate to balance your needs. That's all in vegetable matter. So we look at enzymes. Same issue. The primary source is in vegetable matter. So all of the things that fuel all the functions inside of you, making energy, digestion, the ability to make the electricity that your nervous system uses to turn on all the different functions. You don't have any of the required nutrients to do that. You're not getting adequate sodium. You're not getting adequate potassium. It's sodium and potassium switch sides of a membrane to make electrical currents everywhere in your body. You're not allowed in your body to have any replenishment of the nutrients, and nothing's going to work. Pretty much nothing. The other thing that plants carry is antioxidants. Antioxidants are things that reach out, grab the free radicals that are going through your body, and they just kind of wrap themselves around them and neutralize them. So some of the free radicals come in the diet, and when you people are eating feedlot meats with feedlot fats, thinking that's really healthy, wonderful stuff, there's a lot of free radicals in that. I know somebody who moved into an Amish community and started working with the farms there and started promoting them their meat cuts. And I looked in the freezer, these meat cuts, you couldn't see the meat. It was so much fat. I'm not kidding. A steak, you couldn't see the steak because it was all wrapped up in fat. And I asked about that. Well, they make these special fields with all of their grains to supplement their cows and their livestock with these grains to help finish them off earlier, and it's creating all of this toxic fat. And if you think they don't use herbicides and pesticides, you're mistaken. So those are sources that people never even think about. But our own process of detoxification, phase one detoxification, we've got two phases, phase one and phase two. Phase one makes things more toxic and creates free radicals. Phase two quenches those free radicals, makes them water soluble so we can excrete them. So if you're not getting the minerals and the vitamins and the enzymes to convert all those things and the antioxidants to quench them, you're increasing all the free radical damage inside your body. And that's, by the way, that's what creates all the cardiovascular problems out there. It's not cholesterol. Cholesterol's a Band-Aid. It's free radical damage in the lining of the blood vessels that allows free radicals to get inside of the whole structure of the blood vessel. Creates inflammatory issues. Immune cells turn into foam cells. Cholesterol goes in to make a Band-Aid to cover it, and calcium tries to make that Band-Aid solid. So all the arteriosclerosis that makes all your blood pressures rise up is all from dietary issues and improper detoxification. Carnivore will not allow that to happen at all. And when we look at using protein for fuel, I already talked about what that does. The process it does, called gluconeogenesis, where the amino acids get converted in the liver onto sugar, that makes the sugars just shoot for the moon. That's the primary cause of diabetes, is the adrenal glands releasing too much of the building blocks of proteins called amino acids and turning on the gluconeogenesis in the liver. It's the primary cause of diabetes. So you're setting yourself up for that to go on inside of you. And with all this, you wonder, well, why do they promote this? They promote it out of ignorance. And ignorance is simply, when you look at food intolerances, the lab testing for food intolerances is only 2 to 3% accurate max. Over 20 years ago, a full panel of food intolerances was about $2,100. I haven't looked at it in a long time because we don't do our testing that way. We've got a lot more accurate way of testing, but $2,100 for 2 to 3% accuracy that you think you're going to be able to use to direct the course of your life and your eating. It's just not there. The reason it's so inaccurate is the other 97, 98% of the responses, they don't know what the mechanism is, so there's no way to test it. As I said, we've got a real accurate way to test that, but it's not the lab way. We use bioenergetics, and that's really accurate when it's done right. And I'll put that caveat is when it is done right. And Jeff Bland, Dr. Jeff Bland, he promoted the elimination rotation diet to figure out your food intolerances. But the problem with that is if you eat something today, it may take 3 weeks before it shows up. And oftentimes, at least 3/4 of the time, it doesn't show up in the gut, it shows up somewhere else. So that can show up in the head. We had one person getting grand mal seizures from dietary intolerances. They didn't believe me at first until they got 2 grand mal seizures, and it was from something that I said they'd been exposed to that they couldn't think of what it was, but I was right. And that was the trigger for the grand mal seizures. That's pretty scary because those can be lethal also. So, and sometimes it'll take 2 or 3 exposures before that turns on. But once you turn that reaction on, it takes a good 6 months to calm it down after you heal the gut up. So it's not something you can just rotate like he promotes. In the last picture I saw him, he was one toxic, inflammatory, his face looked like a toxic inflammatory strawberry on steroids, just all puffed up and red and bumpy, and that's all food intolerance. Didn't work good for him. And this is what the carnivore diet sets you up for. An acidic pH that shuts your immune system down, shuts all of your cellular functions down, so you're functioning at a very, very low level of what you need to, dysregulating your blood sugars, converting the extra proteins into sugars. It's disrupting all of the hormone production and interaction in men and women. That takes away their sexuality, which that should be alarming. It creates, with the lack of fiber, it destroys the bowel functions. It wipes out at least 3 out of the 4 detox organs in the body, and makes us toxic, which dysregulates every function inside of the body. So that's what you have with the carnivore choice. It's not a good one, and its outcome isn't good either. So if you like this, put a like on this. Follow the channel, share this with some other people. The liking and the following just helps somebody else find this information, so they don't have to be basically at the mercy of the wolves out there in sheep's clothing trying to sell you something that's going to really destroy your health. We're about to release our own dietary reset program, so watch out for it. It's coming really soon. Thanks. Have an awesome day.